O'clock, we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our meeting this afternoon. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on May 23rd, 2023, and ask our city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guest?
Present.
Commissioner Henderson?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Bray?
Here. And we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then commissioners remain standing while Commissioner Wilson does our invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you on behalf of all of us who are gathered here for the many blessings we have. Thank you for the beautiful day that we have been able to enjoy and for the ability to be involved in useful work. We come to you today asking for your guidance and support as we begin this meeting. Please grant us wisdom as we make decisions on behalf of the citizens of our city. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Wilson, I love your flexibility. I just want to change things up to make sure that you were on your toes. So. Okay, City Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, none this evening.
Okay, we'll kick off with some new employee introductions. And Stephanie Wilcox.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners, City Manager, City Clerk. I would like to introduce to you Bria Schofield. Bria is the new Human Resources Administrative Assistant. Bria is a recent graduate of Western Kentucky University with a degree in HR Management. Bria's most recent job was a bank teller at F&B Bank, and she served as an executive assistant at Jackson Purchase Medical Center. She's also had other customer service experience positions as well. Bria is the proud mom of 4 energetic young boys and enjoys time with them and family. We're excited to watch Bria begin and grow her HR career with the city. Please join me in welcoming Bria. I don't know if, since we're post-COVID, we used to shake hands, if that's okay.
Yeah,
to go?
Let's go back in.
You can go around the front.
Either way, it's fine.
Hey, congratulations. Congratulations, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, welcome. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
So, Bria, you've got, I hope you have high aspirations. Our Human Resource Department is performing at a very, very high level and has really stepped it up a notch a lot in the last couple of years. So we welcome you and know you'll do a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bria.
Chief Kyle?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager and City Clerk. I also have some new employees to introduce tonight. First, I'm going to do the 4 new firefighters that we have. First is Clay Leneve. Clay is a graduate of McCracken County High School in 2018. He graduated from UK in 2022 with a bachelor's in agricultural economics. And so that you might understand why Clay is with us instead of pursuing agricultural economics, all you have to do is look back in the crowd and you'll see his dad sitting back there with a Paducah Fire Department shirt on. His family has a deep tradition of working for the fire department, and Clay wanted to pursue him in that aspect, and we welcome Clay to the team. Next is Jonathan Lawson. Jonathan is from Mayfield. He's been a firefighter for 3 years now, spending his first 2.5 years working for the Mayfield Fire Department. He is married to his wife Ashley of 6 years and has 2 children, Maddox and Lennox. We welcome Jonathan to the team. Michael Hall. Michael has a bachelor's degree in public relations from Murray State University and has recently purchased a house in Lone Oak. He is married to his wife, Kristen, of 3 years. We welcome Michael to the team. Peyton Harris. Peyton is the son of Quint and Danielle Harris. He is a graduate of Lone Oak High School. He is married to his wife, September. He is the father of 3 children, Quint, 2 years old, Reese, 3 years old, and Ava, 9 years old. We welcome Peyton to the team. And then I have our new Deputy Fire Marshal, Matt Stevens. Matt grew up in Ballard County and graduated from Ballard Memorial in 1991, then proceeded to WKCTC for industrial electricity. He worked in the electrical field for several years, then started work at Mayfield Fire Department in September of 2000. Retiring recently in January of 2023. And as of May 4th, he started with us, and we welcome Matt to the team. The 4 new recruits just graduated the academy in Greenville. They have some further training to complete here at home before they get ready to go to the floor, which will be forthcoming in the next month or so. So we're excited to have them back and looking forward to them getting on the truck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. We're
Welcome.
excited to have you as well.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome aboard. Yes, sir. Good luck to you. Good legacy there. Good luck to you. Yes, sir. Thank you, Chief. Lots of experience, some legacy. You know, we got, looks like the fire department is in good hands.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, now we have a presentation for a 911 award. Kimberly?
Good evening. I'm Kimberly Clark, and I'm happy to be here with you today to talk to you about Paducah Central Dispatch and the E911 Communication Services Division of the Paducah Police Department. I was asked to sort of provide an evolution of where we've come since the E911 Center became the responsibility of the city through the police department, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to talk about an award that we received, and you have an overview of that in front of you. The pillars that we're going to talk about today are administration, technology, employee development, recognition, and the environment in the 911 Center partnership and operations. So we've made great strides since the 911 Center came into the responsibility of the police department. Many of these happened before I was here. So arriving to find a beautiful set of policies it always makes my heart happy. The center also received the Kentucky Police Association of Chiefs of Police certification or accreditation in 2016, and we've been able to maintain that throughout. We do have quality assurance reviews. They're done monthly on employees. Employees are very involved in that. We also do regular performance evaluations, which is part of the city, and we're thankful for that. We have created a very efficient open records request process. And we also began this year tracking non-dispatch workload. Whenever you look at a dispatch center, you think of things in terms of calls for service, where in reality, a large percentage of our workload cannot be calculated in calls per service. So we're providing support to all of public safety in McCracken County, including the county attorney and the Commonwealth attorney and probation and parole and the victim advocacy office, animal control, everyone. So being able to quantify that is going to be really important, I think, moving forward for the center. We also interface very closely with Mercy, Emergency Ambulance Service, but until the last 10 months or so, we weren't tracking that in any way. So now we can account for that as a widget or a workload. It takes time. Every call that we answer and transfer to Mercy, if we don't calculate that some way, we would not know that that workload existed. We have implemented consistent hiring practices. We implemented Critical, which is a basic skills assessment for dispatchers, and that, I think, has improved the quality of the applicants that we're actually hiring because we're testing them to make sure they have a basic skill set prior to hire. And we've loved working with our HR partners and participating in regional job fairs and other recruitment opportunities. So ultimately, I believe that we've made great strides to create a foundational infrastructure that will allow us to be efficient moving forward as we lead the division forward. We also have had tremendous technology changes in the last few years, and I was very thankful for that when I arrived here as well. We implemented New World CAD. CAD stands for Computer Aided Dispatch, and that is the call processing module. It's where all the data comes from. So upon receiving a phone call, we enter that information into the Computer Aided Dispatch system. That information is then pushed out to the officers and firefighters, and all of the transactions that take place within that incident are captured within that one database. So that's how we produce things like response time statistics and calls for service statistics. So using the New World system has been really beneficial, not only to us, but to all of our partners. And we'll talk about that in a little bit with some of the other applications we use. We use an Equiture logging recorder system, so every single telephone call or radio transmission that comes into the center is recorded. And with that, that's how we fulfill those open records requests for the public. We go in and pull the information out. In July and August of this year, we implemented Rapid SOS and Rapid Deploy, which are really cool. And it's basically very accurate location information that is obtained from any cellular call that comes into the center. And we've had some great wins with that, being able to find people and rescue people quickly. It shortens the time that you're on the phone. Oftentimes people don't know where they're at when they're calling 911, they just know they're desperate. And so both of those applications allow us to do that. Rapid Deploy also allows us to send an outbound text message to a person that they can click a link and then share information back with us. So that's pretty good too. Crew Force is an application that Paducah Fire has used for quite some time, but over the last 8 months or so, we've rolled that out to all of our fire agency partners. We have one remaining, Lone Oak. They're coming on board in June. But what that is it puts CAD in the palm of their hand in the form of an application on a smartphone. We use an electronic timekeeping system. We not monitor, but we have access to cameras from the city 24/7. We are currently working towards NENA location, I'm going to say GIS standards with the state that is also going to allow us to be NG 911 certified. So lots and lots of things going on, and the whole point of updating that technology is so that we can serve our community better and so that we're providing that same level of service to all of our partners. Employee development is very important in 911. By and large, a candidate who does a good job as a dispatcher is someone who is like a type A personality, who is striving for perfection, trying to learn all the time. And so in order to do that, we have to keep them engaged throughout their careers so that we can keep them here. That's a big piece in retention. So we have developed a basic training curriculum that is standardized amongst all employees, and it allows us to more consistently and thoroughly train people before we're releasing them out to do the important job of answering 911 calls or dispatching police or fire services. We also have lots of advanced training opportunities. Last fall, we did a 6-week leadership development course. We do career training. Prior to promotion, we did a workshop for oral boards because that's difficult to go through, and we want our candidates to do the best. We have attended conferences. We have been conference speakers. Patrick Bugg will be speaking at the State Emergency Services Conference, presenting, I think, 2 topics this fall. I presented at NENA last year, and that's another one of those goals that we're trying to do is to, it also is a great recruitment opportunity, especially in the state. We can tell them about the things that we're doing here. We also have professional memberships in both of the APCO and NENA, and we have a group membership, so all of our folks can enjoy the benefits of that. Our ultimate goal is to keep our employees engaged, give them a promotional pathway so that we can retain them. This next piece is really important, recognition. And I'm just going to read the quote up there directly because it's weighty and I think it's meaningful. We understand that constantly dealing with crisis situations is difficult to endure. Recognition is tangible evidence of good work that propels us forward and helps us to persevere and develop resiliency. It's difficult to listen to the things that we listen to day in and day out. And it's important that we bring to the attention everyone that a good job was done here. And so a shift shout out is whenever the whole shift did something great, we recognize the whole shift. And a star award is special thanks and recognition that can be given by any employee to any employee. We have given that not only to dispatchers, but dispatchers have given it to officers and others. Our custodial staff have gotten star awards because they do a great job for us. And so it's the ability for us to recognize good work regardless of what it is. We started this year in January, Employee of the Month. So each month someone is selected as Employee of the Month. In the last police department award ceremony, many of our dispatchers received commendations. We also are looking towards life-saving awards. We have one nominee that came up this month with a house fire, and that originated with feedback from the fire department. So that was beautiful. We've had stories of our use of Rapid SOS and Rapid Deploy recognized nationally by those applications on their websites. So we're doing really good things here, and it's important that we recognize that because it's a very difficult job that we're asking of people. The last one there is what happened this month. Earlier this month, we went to San Antonio, and Patrick Bugg and Hillary Fowler received an award. It's the Tyler Excellence Award, and we received that in the category of innovation and public trust, which I thought was amazing. If I can win an award, I'd love it to be in that category. It was really an honor, and they were the only dispatchers present. Everyone else that got awards were like administrative type people, but they were recognized for the work that they did. And you have some of the information in front of you, so I won't go through all the details. We don't have the award yet. We received it. I didn't trust flying back with it, so they're going to mail it to us. It's glass, and I'm very clumsy. But that was a real honor for them, and it's an experience, hopefully, that they will be quicker to nominate other people for the experience that they had. They rescued a hunter in support of Concord Fire Department. They worked together utilizing the Crew Force application and Rapid SOS in order to find the hunters and then guide the firefighters to find him. We've also worked really hard on our environment. We're trying to make sure that we have spaces for things. It's a difficult job. You need a place to decompress. We have a really nice break room / quiet room. We have remodeled our kitchen. We have a dedicated training space. We have meeting space. We have implemented larger lockers so that employees have places to put their things. We have shared administrative offices. We have a communication station when you come in with a bulletin board and mailboxes and a place to put things. We have a window covered in the stars that they get for the Star Awards. We've made way for guest seating, and we've tried to be much more organized. So ultimately, our space isn't as big as maybe we would like, but we're trying to maximize that by using, by being organized and dedicating spaces. This one's a big one. We work in partnership with all of our customers. We have more customers than are just here. These are just the logos that I could find. We have worked diligently to calibrate the services that we offer so that everyone's getting the same level of service. The rollout of Crew Force was integral in that for all of the county fire agencies. They now can see the calls for service as they come in on their Crew Force app. They can go in and look up their times. They can go in and search historically. That wasn't possible before. We are offering the same level of service to our law enforcement customers, including Paducah Police Department and McCracken County Sheriff's Office deputies. The same for emergency management. We've really stepped up our involvement with them. We're currently working with them to establish a backup dispatch. I'm going to say center, but really it's just using some space that they have so that if we did have to evacuate, we would be able to do that. And operations. This is the meat and potatoes of what we do every day. We continuously strive to be the best with the City of Paducah motto. and do that in service to our community by seeking input from our customers, performing quality assurance reviews, making sure that we are offering that highest level of service, and also remaining in compliance with state and federal requirements related to dispatch and security and confidentiality and NCIC records, making sure that we're doing it properly. We have implemented best practice standards. We have a TAC and an assistant TAC that stands for Terminal Agency Coordinator that oversees all of our access related to NCIC. We've created more efficient processes. We have prioritized task management and delegated things that are not the instant priority to others on the team or to do during downtime. We have dedicated assignments, diverse workflow pathways. So working with the county jail, they require a lot of stuff from us. And we've worked with them to create a prioritized system so that they can send things via email. So we really have worked hard, especially in the last year, to calibrate the services and the processes that we use. So that is an overview of Paducah Central Dispatch. Yes?
Good question. Okay, so we've got, we're providing things to a lot of different customers. The county jail was one that you mentioned, also Mercy. Do we have, and I probably should know this, did the police and fire, does some of their budget go toward 911? Or is 911 complete?
We have a 911 fund that is funded for or through cell phones through the state and landlines, but out of the general fund, we have to make up that shortfall.
So it's all from the general fund, not from the police department? Gotcha. All right, I didn't realize that the jail uses services. What would be an example of?
So anytime the jail releases a prisoner, they have to clear them first to make sure there are no outstanding warrants. And that comes in a priority 1 and a priority 2. A priority 1 is something they have to instantly release somebody, and we have to give them a response in 15 minutes. If it's a priority 2, then we have a little bit longer to provide that information. So they'll contact us, and we do NCIC queries to make sure that the person is clear of warrants and isn't wanted for any reason, and provide that information back to the jail.
Is the calls from the jail, is that logged as a county call or a city call? I know that's how.
It's not a call for service. So that's what I'm getting at about our workflow. Like a lot of the services that we're providing aren't in a CAD system. They're
Yeah,
not
I
calculated like that. So, but we do have a way to calculate it now. And that's the same way with like the probation and parole. They're probably our biggest customer for criminal histories. We do tons of them every single month. But they wouldn't be in this subscriber category.
I got you. I mean, it seems
And-
like at some point, the 911 group should look at where all these service calls are coming from, and it sounds like it's a lot more complicated than.
That'll be part of the process going forward.
Yep.
So,
And that's the reason we're creating the data, right? So that we can figure those
Right.
things out.
Good.
yeah, I have a question about the national accreditation that you're reaching for. I mean, can you talk, I was on one of the slides, can you talk a
So
little
we
bit
have
about
the
it?
state accreditation, and the center had that long before I got here. It is through the Kentucky Association of Chiefs of Police. However, there are other certifications that you can get. And so I have my emergency number professional certification as an individual, and that would be something that I would want all of our leadership team to have. Amber, a shift supervisor, is currently enrolled in the NINA Center Manager Certification Program. She'll do that this fall. And Patrick is enrolled in the level under that, which is the NINA Shift Supervisor Certification. And we're putting all of our certified training officers through the Denise Amber Lee certification right now. So we have multiple different things going, and once some of those foundational things are in place, then the next level would be APCO P33 certification, which certifies our training program and makes sure that we're in alignment with national standards. So we're just sort of chipping away at it. We have, I think, 5 dispatchers working on the NINA Excellence in Dispatch certification, which is a certification that is based upon completing, I think it's 24 hours of training within 24 months, and there's 3 8-hour classes. So Hillary is set to achieve that by July. So she'll be our
So,
first.
so achieving national accreditation for the center itself is dependent upon individuals getting certifications?
Some is and some isn't. So there's another one that I didn't mention, and it's the NINA Partner in Education. And in order to achieve that, we have to have a certain percentage of our members with those other levels of certifications in order to even apply for it. With the APCO P33 certification, we have to have certified trainers, we have to have certified curriculum, we have to have documented training hours that were provided. So it's multifaceted.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
so what was that bullet point that on one of the slides, if you could go back?
On national certifications?
Yeah.
It's the ones we're working towards, so.
Okay, it's multiple. I didn't really understand that,
Yeah,
so.
we're working towards multiple different certifications.
Okay, so there's not an accreditation for the entire center that's a singular achievement.
There are a couple of avenues towards that. We have the state accreditation. There's also a CALIA accreditation just for communication centers, but you have to have all of everything in order to even apply for that. So that would be maybe something that we have as a future goal, but that's not anything we're currently working on.
Okay.
Are there any fees to the certifications for individuals?
There are different levels of fees for different things. So for example, the emergency number professional certification that I have, there's a fee to apply and test, and then there is a fee to maintain it. So every 3 years, I think I have to pay $500. I also have to prove that I've used my certification properly, so I have to give them all kinds of documentation. For the center manager certification through NINA, that is $1,000 for the class. For Patrick's, I think it's $350 a day or something. So it's very dynamic, depending on which way you go. APCO has a couple of other certifications. One is a registered public leader, and that is a 12-month-long curriculum. And then they also have a certified public executive, which is another 12-month-long curriculum. So those would be things we work towards. We want to knock out some of the shorter duration ones first.
Are there any scholarships available?
Yes. I haven't really delved in too much here into the state APCO KINA, but in Arizona where I came from, I was the state president, and there we had scholarships for all of those certifications. You just had to apply. Patrick did apply for a scholarship for the supervisor training that he's going to. We registered him anyway because those classes fill up quickly. And we have nominated people for national awards in addition to the Tyler one that we won. And those usually come with some sort of scholarship.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really great. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thank
great
you, Kim.
job.
thank you. Okay, got a few things to talk about before we jump into the agenda. Things that I guess you'd say we're dealing with. The first would be dead fish on the riverfront. So it's pretty unseemly and unsightly. And I got somebody contacted me today. I was actually down there early this morning and witnessed it, firsthand. So. But there was an article in the paper about it last week. There's something called a gas bubble disease that happens on an annual basis, and that causes all these fish to come ashore. So the Parks Department, in partnership with the fire department, is doing their best to clean it up, keep it clean, and that's on a daily basis. But there is some fish that wash up in spots where it's really hard to get, so it's work in process. So I just wanted to, I guess, talk about that for a second. Second thing I'll mention is there was a big discussion, about the airport and about money being returned to the city and county from the airport. Without getting into a really long discussion about it, kind of the way we look at it is there's two. The city and county pledged $3 million apiece to help build the new terminal out at the airport. And that construction is ongoing. Separate from that, the state legislature granted $5.3 million to the airport, specifically to the airport. And I know there's been some discussion about taking some of that $5.3 million and applying it to the city-county share of what we're paying for in the airport. We kind of look at that as two buckets of money, if you will, and also in discussions with our legislators, it's been made pretty clear to us that money was designated for the airport. And we hold our relationship with our legislators to be very, very important. And so, our position is we want to honor those wishes. But at the same time, there's also construction going on relative to the terminal. And kind of the short story is that between the federal government and the state and the city and county, those monies are going to pay for this $42 or $43 million contract. But the city and county money is last in, meaning that if that project comes in under budget, then city and county money will not need to be used. And I am hopeful in discussions with the airport and that project may well come in under budget, and we might have some monies not returned to us, but not need to be used. So we're watching that construction project very closely. We're coming down to the last 4 to 6 weeks. The terminal is scheduled to be open the end of June, and so we're hopeful that that project may come in under budget. We don't have any assurances of that, but I just wanted to have a kind of a general discussion about that. Also, Commissioner Wilson, some of us attended a meeting here in Paducah last week, a international meeting that was hosted here in Paducah by the Energy Communities Alliance, ECA. Energy Communities Alliance is a trade association for municipalities that have some sort of nuclear site in their community. And as everyone knows here, we have a gaseous diffusion plant that was built back in the 50s and now is in the process of being decommissioned. One of the things that we have to think about, all communities that have this sort of thing have to think about, is what do we do with that site in the future? It's a site that has provided 1,500, 2,000 jobs for our community consistently for the last 50, 60, 70 years. We've got 12 to 1,500 people out there now doing cleanup. So this conference was hosted last week by ECA, and we had people from all over the United States and Canada and the Netherlands, people that wanted to come and talk with other people about how they were going to develop their sites in the future. And I do feel like there's a lot of promise for our site in the long run. Particularly, there's new technology out there with nuclear energy, and there's a lot of discussions that are taking place in the community right now. It's in the very early stages because we still have a lot of cleanup left to do out there. But this was a great meeting hosted here in Paducah, and I think I myself made a lot of new contacts, and I think it will prove to be very positive for the community in the long run. And the last thing I'll mention before we kick off is just that we are introducing our budget tonight, and I know our city manager is going to give an overview of the budget, but this is a process that the city goes through on an annual basis. Actually, it seems like we're always in the middle of budget discussions or planning about, is it in the budget for this year? Can we put it in the budget for next year? It's a really, really big situation. A lot of our people here in the city spend a lot of time and effort putting the budget together, and this is our first introduction tonight, and we'll be talking more about that. So with that, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval unless any commissioner would like an item removed for separate discussion. If not, I'll ask the city clerk to please read it.
Approve minutes for the May 9th, 2023 Board of Commissioners meeting, receive and file documents, personnel actions, a municipal order adopting the fiscal year 2024 position and pay schedule for the full-time employees of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, a municipal order adopting the fiscal year 2024 pay grade schedule for the employees of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, a municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a service agreement in the amount of $32,626.28 with Mobile Communications of America, MCA, previously known as Jackson Purchase 2A Radio Incorporated, a municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with the Paducah Convention and Visitors Bureau in the amount of $25,000 for specific services related to the American Quilter Society Spring 2023 show, a municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase agreement with Atlantic Emergency Solutions Incorporated for the purchase of one pumper truck in the discounted amount of $772,913 for use by the Paducah Fire Department, and authorizing the finance director to make payment to Atlantic Emergency Solutions Incorporated for said purchase contingent upon approval through the FY 2024 budget.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. So the first ordinance to adopt is, actually the first thing to address is an ordinance that we're going to adopt for consensual annexation, and I'll ask City Clerk to please read it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance extending the boundary of the City of Paducah, Kentucky by annexing certain property lying adjacent to the corporate limits of the City of Paducah and defining accurately the boundary of said property to be included within the said corporate limits. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah hereby approves the consensual annexation of certain tracts of property contiguous to the present city limits located at 252 Locust Avenue, containing approximately 1.47 acres of land.
So moved. Second.
Remind me where 252 Locust Avenue is.
Josh, you want to?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. This is located on the north side of the city, just north of Industrial Drive, along Coleman Road. And the entire parcel is about 1.86 acres, but we're only going to be annexing about 1.4 out of the total area on the Coleman Road side.
Okay.
What's going to be used? What's that land going to be used for?
The petitioner doesn't know yet. He has applied for a M1 light industrial zone. He has mentioned things like a support service, like a convenience store for the forthcoming apartments next door to that development, but he does suspect it'll be some kind of support development for that.
Another convenience store. Or a Dollar General, though. Could be a Dollar General.
I was just telling Chief Laird that I think we've got 11 in McCracken County now at last count, so.
Stay busy.
They do. They've taken over the market a little bit, so. Any other?
Well, I would just say, Mayor and Commissioner, you know that under the recently wrapped up state legislation, there was some legislation passed about consensual annexations and notifications that are required. The city did follow all the prescribed law that was put into place, and so we did notice the fiscal court that this was a consensual annexation, and we are beyond the 45 days that's required before you're taking the final action.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, I'll ask the city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, we have 4 ordinances to introduce. The first one is agreements between the City of Paducah and our Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. Stephanie?
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. Again, the city is introducing contract changes for the AFSCME agreement that was not scheduled to end until the end of next year. So in order to make any changes, both parties have to agree, of which one of those would be for them to receive the cost of living adjustment that the rest of the city was going to receive. So in exchange, we've had some section changes where it depends who, we changed language, they could bring to a disciplinary action. We added the Juneteenth holiday, which they were already getting. Meals are no longer mandatory for the city during inclement weather when restaurants are closed. That's been an issue for us in the past. Breaks being taken on-site or approved location, as well as lunches, they can go back to the shop. And representatives are only part of their board at the labor management meetings moving forward, and then the cost of living adjustments of 643 moving forward, and the contract changed to July 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 26, of which that brings all of our union agreements to the same schedule.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the cost that the contract said 2%, and we're adjusting them up to the rest of the city, which is 6%?
Yes.
And
The
what the
average.
cost of that is?
The average increase per employee would be $1,750 annually,
So about how much total?
about
Maybe.
$92,000 total.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How many employees are in that union?
As far as membership, it's around 25 employees that are actually members, but we treat all those positions that fall under the contract, which is around 50.
Okay.
So they have less than half of the union representative positions that are actual members.
Okay.
That means like managers, mid-level managers type.
No, that's actual, that's our laborers, truck drivers, all those positions.
And so that's everybody, so that everybody will be at the same level, is that what you, in terms of the increase? We treat them the same.
Yep.
Correct.
In terms of the cost of living adjustment, yeah, as this being proposed in the upcoming budget, it means that all team members would receive the same.
What is the advantage of having all the contracts on the same cycle? Seems like that would be awfully hard on us to negotiate all those if you've got 3 contracts in play at the same time, too.
We actually had that up to a couple years ago. There was a section where fire and police went to 5 years, and that's what's got us off the cycle. This gets us back. So it's not something that has not been done in the past. And our team is very capable of handling all 3 at the same time.
So it's not, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. So do all the contracts end at the same
Yeah.
time?
They will now.
They will now.
After
That
this
gets us
change.
back to the way it used to be.
I can see it as being an
Advantage.
to
How?
have it all at the same time. You would be working with all of them, I guess, kind of on the same
Simultaneous.
Right.
levels, to make sure that they're.
It
Well,
would
when we
allow
need-
for everybody potentially to get the same COLAs
COLAs.
and not one here, and then next year, like this year, AFSCME would have only received a 2% increase, and the rest of the city.
Yeah, I mean, I could see an advantage on that, but if there's something contentious, and sometimes they are contentious, it would require more labor from our side to negotiate it, as well as their side too. But if you've got more than one that's contentious, it would be a strain.
We're going back from 20 years ago that we used to hire
Yeah.
out service, and the last 4 years, we haven't had problems. I mean, those kind of problems.
Yeah, it really hasn't. We haven't had, it hasn't been contentious. I mean, you know, we've got a, knock on wood, you know,
Yeah.
we've got a,
No one
you know,
wants
good-
that. I'm
good
just-
relationship.
Because they were. I mean, we.
Yeah, we've been through
That's
that.
been several years ago. I think
Yeah,
we were
that's-
past that.
Well, let's hope.
You know,
I
and
will-
some of the changes seem small in nature, but they are issues that are frequent management headaches that we hope will improve everyday operations.
And I was going to say, you know, during this year's contract negotiation with police and fire, you know, I think large credit goes to Stephanie and the chiefs working on our behalf to have those, you know, not only build those relationships up prior to the contract negotiations, but then also look out the best interest for the organization. And so, you know, I'm very pleased with the efforts that they put forth in those. And you're right, Commissioner, there could be some efforts, but I have faith and confidence in our team to be able to work through those.
So if you look at there's a trade-off here. I mean, you know, they've got an increase coming up that's 2%. We're going to supplement that with a 6%, and we're going to extend them. So you have no assurances at the end of their contract that, you know, that we wouldn't be doing something like that anyway, because they had missed out on you know, that they were, you know, during one of the highest rates of inflation, you know, that we've seen recently, you know, that they didn't participate, you know, and then that could become more contentious. So nobody can predict the future. It's, you know, we made a call.
Now, as far as the wage adjustment, I mean, I think that's very fair. I mean, no one, like you say, but it just, you just don't know what can crop up, anything, a contentious issue. That's my comment. Apparently, I'm, you know, no need to spend any more time on it.
Okay, any other discussion?
Need to read that.
Yeah, I guess you should read it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Paducah and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, Local 1586. This ordinance is summarized as follows, that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute an agreement and other associated documents between the City of Paducah and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, Local 1586. This agreement shall be effective from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second?
Call roll.
You want to-
Oh, sorry. Okay, now we're going to introduce the budget for this year, and I think we're going to start out, City Manager, you have some remarks that you want to make, and then we're going to
Thank you.
ask Audra. Thank you, Stephanie. Then we're going to ask Audra to come up. So go ahead.
So, all right. Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, you do have the printed of this message in front of you as well tonight. And before I do read this, just kind of for the public's understanding, we'll talk a little bit about the budget message, but under the city manager form of government, under the state, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, there are certain procedures that have to be in place. And one of it is that it is responsibility to bring a draft budget to the commission before the end of May. And constitutionally, you have to adopt a budget before the end of June. Our hope is that after this first reading, that we'll be set to have adoption at the next meeting of the regular meeting of the commission. So with that, I'll read the prepared message. Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, members of Team Paducah, and Paducah residents, it is with gratitude to the members of Team Paducah that have worked diligently to get us to this point that I humbly submit the fiscal year 2024 City of Paducah budget for your consideration. Under the Commonwealth of Kentucky statutes, the city manager adopted forms of government, the responsibility to prepare the budget is levied on the city manager. However, this budget was not prepared in a vacuum and without input from our team and the city commission. It is in this collaborative spirit and with the foundation of being mindful that the dollars expensed in this budget are entrusted to us by the public that we have drafted the FY24 budget for consideration. Although we still have hurdles to overcome from the recent pandemic and are adjusting to an uncertain fiscal landscape that is a result of inflationary pressures, the fiscal year 2024 budget is largely based upon the recently adopted commission priorities. Realizing the commission priorities addressed existing and future community needs in the proposed fiscal year 24 budget, and it's balanced through the use of an anticipated revenue and with a 2.1 use from reserves, 2.1 million use from reserves. Similar to last year, we budgeted roughly 2.5 million from reserves, and a large portion of those reserves are used to balance the budget and are tied to the general fund having to underwrite a revenue shortfall in 911 operations this year of about $1.1 million. Commissioner Smith, that goes to your question earlier about the 911 funding. Remaining fiscally conservative in preparation of the budget, we hope that this conservative posture will allow us to ultimately not have to use those reserves. Nonetheless, the use of reserves allows us to be bold in the face of uncertain market conditions and keep providing the level of services that makes Paducah a wonderful place for each of us to call home. In preparing the fiscal year 24 budget, we did not deviate from any existing financial policy. The total fiscal year 24 budget is presented at roughly $99.2 million. The general fund budget makes up $46.1 million, a little less than half of the total budget, and it proposes a 6% cost of living adjustment for all team members, which we just mentioned. The bond fund is from proceeds from the 2020 general obligation bond and is appropriated in this budget at $17.5 million. Currently, those funds have been pledged towards the Joint Regional Sports Complex and Barkley Regional Airport. This leaves a balance of the original $20 million bond fund of about $4.5 million to be pledged. The fiscal year 24 budget also provides for $53.1 million in non-general fund expenditures. Major expenditures that are captured in this portion of the budget include internal services, debt service, solid waste, road repairs, and the transient boat dock. The Commission's adopted priorities for 2023 highlight the focus of the operational expenditures in the budget. In broad terms, those priorities include bike lanes and trails, city facilities, community growth, the downtown, housing, minority inclusion, neighborhoods, quality of life, revenue equity, Southside enhancements. Additionally, the budget also focuses on the Commission's priority of continuous improvement in the areas of the 911 radio equipment upgrade, governance, and revenue, efforts to improve operational efficiencies, outdoor sports facilities, protecting key historical and cultural resources, and stormwater. The fiscal year 24 budget allocates $6.2 million from the investment fund. The investment fund is derived from 0.5% of the 2% occupational license fee, and it addresses activities in the following broad categories. Economic development, rounded to $1.2 million. That includes investments towards GPED, IDA, Sprocket, the airport, downtown development, community scholarship fund, and business recruitment efforts. Community development, and $457,000, where investments include Southside, Paxton Golf Course, demolitions of blighted and abandoned property, and the Hotel Metropolitan roof. In the category of infrastructure and capital improvement, we have roughly $2.8 million budgeted. Those fund allocations go towards street rehab, which this year that is an increase of 30% over the current fiscal year 23 funding levels. City facilities, greenway bike path master planning, preservation of cultural assets, and riverfront dredging. We also have annual debt service allocated in the fiscal year 24 budget at roughly $1.53 million. And then also we have out of this investment fund community agency investment of $173,000, and that is funding that is provided through competitive grant name process and other direct funding. And at this point, I'd like to ask our comptroller, Audra Kyle, to come forward and give you some more detailed of the budget overview.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, City Clerk. Tonight, the City Manager has asked me to provide some highlights of general fund revenue and expenditure trends. Total projected revenue for the general fund for fiscal '24 is just over $44 million. The big four that we call it, which is payroll tax, insurance premium tax, business license, and real estate tax, make up 83%, or $36.6 million of total general fund revenue. An $885,000 or 2.5% increase is projected for this group of revenue over what we anticipate to receive in fiscal '23. The majority of the projected increase for this group of revenue is in payroll tax. We're looking at around $500,000 or a little over 2.5% increase of what we expect to receive this year. This chart that we're looking at includes 4 years of actual results and 2 years, they're in orange, and then 2 years of projected results for 2023 and 2024 in yellow. So you can see there the increase between 21 and 22 and how those increases now are projecting to smooth out. So we hope that we're now entering a time of more normal growth patterns following the uncertainties that came during COVID years. So we hope we're entering into kind of a new normal, healthy growth. Normal. For insurance premium tax, I want to point out that the 1% increase was effective on 7/1 of '20, and we started collecting the revenue from that increase in the second quarter of fiscal '21. So you can see that increase there between fiscal '20 and fiscal '21. This revenue appears to be leveling off. However, it's historically had periodic fluctuations that make it a little more unpredictable than the other three revenues. So it's projected to be fairly flat, and but maybe we'll get a surprise. Who knows? Hopefully a good surprise. Business license is very flat. But unlike insurance premium tax, we know more about why this revenue is in a stagnant pattern. There is a cap on the first $3.5 million of gross receipts. And after a business hits the $3.5 million gross number, all receipts over that are susceptible to a rate of 0.00005. So we pretty much get nothing after it hits the 3.5 million mark. So as a result of that, we only realize the benefits of increases in gross receipts from companies that gross under 3.5 billion. And I also wanted to point out the last time this cap was adjusted was in the late 80s. It even precedes John. And then finally, property tax. The budget being presented tonight includes the assumption that we will take the 4% increase. However, we believe that the rate will still likely decrease. We took the 4% last year in fiscal '23, the current year, and the rate went from 0.271 to 0.265. So just to remind everyone how that works, the comp rate is the rate that we would have that would produce the same amount of revenue as in the prior year. And we can take the comp rate plus 4% without that rate being subject to recall. So if we have a good year in assessments, which we probably will, then it's very possible that that rate, if even taking the 4%, will still go down. Okay, now to take a look at expenditures. This is a graph showing expenditures by category proposed for fiscal '24. It's just over $46 million total. The chart above breaks down the budget by category, and as we are a service organization, personnel costs comprise approximately 70% of the general fund budget. This chart that we're looking at now compares fiscal '24 projected expenses. Well, let me back up. These 6 accounts below make up $29.2 million of projected fiscal '24 general fund expenditures. And all of these accounts are components of the personal services category. So these are our top 6 expenditure accounts. This chart that we're looking at compares fiscal '24 projected expenses in these accounts to actual results from 2019. This time period includes 2 rounds of union contract renewals. Efforts were made during both of these contracts to bring wages closer to market rates under the Commission's direction for retention and recruitment purposes. And also of note are the 2 CERS accounts. Both have significantly increased from fiscal '19 to fiscal '24. However, they've leveled off for now. We hope that trend continues into the future, but I do want to point out that those rates are beyond our control. That's set by the state. So this last chart the city manager asked that I kind of put revenue against expense and see how that's panning out and how that looks. And this is a really uneventful chart, and that's a good thing, because what it's doing, okay, let me bring my notes here. We compared the top tier of expenditures to the top tier of revenue to see how they face up against each other. And what this means, if you look at how stable it is, that the group of revenues is keeping pace with the top group of revenues is keeping pace with the top group of expenditures. So that's really a good thing, meaning that our revenue is keeping pace with our increase in expenditures for the most part. Again, as in my earlier charts, the years in orange are actual, the years in yellow are projected, so we're hoping maybe through slippage and other things that I'm thinking that those yellow numbers will come even closer to the ones that are in orange. So it's very flat, and that's a good thing. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay.
I think I'm good. Thanks, Audra. Appreciate it.
Also, Mayor and Commission, it's also my responsibility statutory to provide you information on anticipated future needs and those financial impacts for the future consideration. As always, there are projects that get limited attention or deferred because of a lack of dedicated funding stream to move these projects forward. Two big such items that will require future discussions on how to finance are 911 and stormwater. As seen in the proposed budget, 911 will require over $1 million from the general fund just to ensure the existing financial obligations are met. This does not count the estimated $10 to $10.5 million needed to upgrade the system for stability and continued operability. Currently, we have a joint city-county working group studying proposals for 911 upgrades, and a recommendation from that group will be forthcoming this summer. In recent years, we've allocated $4 million in ARPA funds towards stormwater projects. While this has allowed us to address a few projects, such limited investments will not suffice to address the myriad of stormwater improvements needed to minimize the impact of our residents during flooding events. Fiscal year 2024 will be an exciting time for the City of Paducah as several of our projects begin in earnest. Projects like Riverfront Development or the Build Grant, City Block Project, and the Sportsplex will all be underway. Other projects like the renovation to the Cherry Civic Center, the addition of pickleball courts, several big road projects, and the flood wall projects are all scheduled to be completed this year. And yes, I said the flood wall project is scheduled to be completed this year. These projects and the ones captured in the proposed fiscal year 24 budget will help Paducah continue to grow and be a regional hub for commerce and economic development. These investments also demonstrate the Commission's priority of laying a foundational framework to ensure that Paducah is a great place to live, work, and play, not only for this next fiscal year, but for generations to come. The preparation of the budget is no small task. The process starts in earnest in January and depends on many team members to accomplish. From the individuals that lead our various departments to the Mayor and City Commission, I say thank you for your engagement in this process. I also wish to recognize the Finance Department under the leadership of our Finance Director, John Perkins, the support of Comptroller Audra Kyle and Accountant Cameron Davenport. Their attention to detail and efforts to keep the budget process moving forward are greatly appreciated. However, without the support of the whole finance team, they would not be able to devote such a large portion of their time from January through May working to ensure that we meet our statutory obligation to present this budget for consideration before the end of May. Michelle Smolin, our Assistant City Manager, remains an important part of this process. Her involvement in the budget process is invaluable. Additionally, without an engaged and informed Mayor and Commission, the budget process could not be accomplished. Mayor Bray, Mayor Pro Tem Wilson, Commissioner Guest, Commissioner Henderson, and Commissioner Smith, thank you for making the time to be active in this process and helping us allocate the public dollars in a manner that addresses community needs, stays true to our public purpose spending mandate, and helps chart a bold course for our community.
Thank you, Darren. Any discussion on the budget?
We've discussed it a lot.
We have discussed it a lot, so just in case anybody out there thinks we haven't discussed it, so. Okay, we'll move on then to,
I'll read it.
oh, I'm sorry, okay. Go ahead and read, please.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance adopting the City of Paducah, Kentucky annual operating budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government. This ordinance is summarized as follows: adopting the City of Paducah annual budget for fiscal year July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government at $99,258,937 and summarized by fund as follows: General Fund, $46,133,271. MAP Fund, $2,035,000. Investment Fund, $6,195,110. TIF Fund, $121,000. E911, $2,741,125. Court awards, $90,800. Room tax, $1,850,000. Debt, $3,732,795. CIP fund, $2,153,725. Bond fund, $17,500,000. Solid waste fund, $6,975,357. Transient boat, $137,644. Rental fund, $205,505. Radio depreciation, $159,780. Fleet maintenance, $892,520. Fleet lease trust fund, $2,517,065. Insurance fund, $1,350,845. Health insurance, $3,534,420. Police and Fire Pension Fund, $852,655. And other trust, $80,320 for a total of $99,258,937.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I think we can now move on. And I'll ask the city clerk to please read the next ordinance.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Chapter 98, Article 6, Special Events of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance amends Chapter 98, Article 6, Special Events of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky to codify the requirements for the issuance of special event permits.
So moved.
Second.
Could you briefly explain that?
Absolutely. So right now, we have basically the requirements to issue a special event permit. Those are laid out in city policy. Our city attorney let us know that there is certain case law that has come out that says that we should move those from policy into ordinance to codify them. There's been other places where those have been challenged, and they have held up well if they are codified and not so well if they are only in an administrative policy. This doesn't actually change anything that we currently do or any policy that we currently operate under. It just simply codifies it in our ordinances.
So it would make it a little more challenging if we wanted to change it in the future because we would have to amend the ordinance.
Correct.
Rather than just,
It would take 2 readings to amend it.
yeah, okay. Okay. We good? Everybody good? Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to please read the next one.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Chapter 58, Article 2, Human Rights Commission of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance amends the Human Rights Commission to increase the number of Human Rights Commissioners to 7. The initial appointments shall be staggered, with each member appointed thereafter serving for a term of 3 years.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll take this one. We are repopulating the Human Rights Commission, and we are in the process right now of beginning to make decisions about who we're going to appoint. And when we looked at the ordinance, we only had 5 people on the board, and we felt like that was really not enough. And so we decided to move from 5 to 7. And so really this change in the ordinance does nothing to the human rights ordinance other than move from 5 to 7 commissioners. Our anticipation is that once we appoint the new commission, that one of their first tasks will be to take a look at the ordinance and suggest changes, updates to that ordinance. But the first thing we had to do was make sure that we had a representative group of people. And so we decided to move from 5 to 7.
Mayor, when do you expect to appoint the commission?
We're actually going to go through an interview process, and we are scheduling interviews in June. So I think we will be, shortly after the 1st of July, I think we'll be in a position to make those appointments. Our goal was July 1. We can miss it by one commission meeting, but we won't miss it by much.
Okay.
Any other? Everybody else good? Okay, now we have 2 discussion items. And the first one, we'll ask Amy Clark to come up and give us some updates on Oak Grove Cemetery.
Good evening. So at the next meeting in a couple of weeks, I have a proposed ordinance update on the agenda. So I wanted to come tonight and just kind of talk through how we got to deciding that we needed to update the ordinance, and then on a high level, kind of talk about what some of those changes to the ordinance would look like. So let me get this going. That's not it. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so our current ordinance is very general. There's not a whole lot to it. Over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of improvements that we've been working towards at the cemetery, from how we operate to just the maintenance and upkeep. And one of the things that we've been looking at tackling is improving our guidelines for our citizens, for our cemetery plot holders. And in that process, we found that while we have guidelines, it's not in ordinance, it's not in policy. And so I just felt like it was a really good time to take a look at the ordinance and kind of marry the 2 documents together, so that the citizens are very aware of what we can provide and it's in ordinance. So that's really kind of how we started. And then we started looking at other municipalities that operate cemeteries and looking at the ordinances that they have and the policies and procedures, and we kind of built ours from that. So this is, hold on, there we go. So there's 2 reasons, or there's 2 sections that have impacted this. We have state code or state statute, and these are those on a high level. It doesn't change a whole lot from the user perspective. It's just making sure that our ordinance supports the statutes. It's kind of extra. We don't necessarily have to do it in our ordinance. We have to do it by the state. We're required to, but just adding it to our ordinance makes it here, local, easy to find. So the first one is powers of the cities, recognizing the administrative authority that we have as running the operations of the cemetery. It includes giving Parks and Rec the designation of the operation. So it's very, very specific to just giving us that authority. The second one is just an update to the definitions. Third one is internment and disinterment. And for the sake of explaining that, interment is when we actually do a burial. It's putting the vault in the ground. The disinterment is when we have to take one out, which does happen on occasion. We've had to do several over the course of the last couple of years. But this is just kind of going through what the process is. We do this internally already, so it's just making sure that we add it to the ordinance so that it's there. We also have a statute that requires us to protect the burial grounds. We weren't aware of this statute until we found it, and it's definitely something that needs to be in there, and that actually does impact our community, so I'll talk about that in just a minute. And then removal of a grave, this is more for like if somebody wants to come in and disinter and then relocate them to another cemetery somewhere. There's a process to that. And then we have the purchase, sale, and transfer of cemetery lots. That's actually already in there. But we did update the language a little bit to make sure that all transfers go through the Parks Department. That hasn't been done in the past. And it just helps us keep our records accurate. And then the final statute that impacts us is just the interference with the funeral service. This is actually a Class B misdemeanor, and it's not currently in our code. So we wanted to make sure we added that. The impacts to the community are on the protection of burial grounds. Currently, we have people that like to walk their dogs in the cemetery. That is not permitted. And so that's really the biggest impact. If people come out for a burial or for a funeral service, they just need to leave their pets in their car. They can't get them out, that kind of thing. And then the last one on this is the purchase, just making sure that all transfers go through our office. What we found is that like, for instance, we might have a grandparent come and buy several plots for their family. And over years and years, one of those or two of those may get transferred to cousins or nieces and nephews, and we don't get that documentation until they come in to bury, and we don't have the accurate information. So this just allows us to make sure that any transfers, it doesn't mean they can't do it, they just need to let us know that they want to so that our records are accurate. And then there's several things that we already do. We already practice these. These are that we feel like these need to go into the ordinance. One of them is a schedule of fees. We already have a municipal order for a schedule of fees, but in our research, we found that we are not really up to trend on our lot sale fees and our crypt fees. So we are introducing a municipal order to increase those fees, and we've added that into the ordinance. Charges for cemetery services, this is actually already in there. We updated the language. There's a charge for a late service right now that is at 4 p.m., but our staff get off at 3. So we have changed the language to say 2 o'clock. If you have a funeral that's scheduled for after 2 o'clock, there's just an additional late fee for that service. This also applies to weekends. Currently, we do funeral services 7 days a week. I don't have weekend staff, and so we're no longer going to allow services on Sundays, but Saturday services will just incur a weekend fee. And so that's kind of the changes there. There's no language specific to a maintenance fund, and so we have added it. Our current policy is that 20% of the lot sales go towards the maintenance and upkeep of the cemetery. And we are requesting an increase of 30%. So that we've added the language on the maintenance fund, how that works, and then included the 30% increase. Or not 30% increase, 30% total increase of 10%.
From 20 to 30.
Correct. We also have a couple of contracts, and so any kind of revenue from those contracts would go towards that maintenance fund as well. Operations, this just defines the responsibilities. We have administrative staff that contribute to the operations of the cemetery as well as maintenance staff. And so this just kind of defines, we've added language to define that responsibility. Of course, we've added our rules of conduct. That's in our parks ordinance, so we've added it here as well. Vehicles and parking, just specific to where they can park when they come in for a funeral service. You know, there's a city ordinance for parks that you're not allowed to park on the grass. So we've kind of transitioned that language to include that in here as well. We've added our hours of operation. Funeral services, the expectations from our funeral homes and what's required and what we provide versus what they provide, that's all already practiced, but we added it in here as well. Inclement weather, we don't have a policy for inclement weather, but several other cemeteries do. And so we kind of sort of copied their language and added that here. Basically, we staff every funeral, and so now if we have inclement weather that requires that we do not allow the service to happen at that moment, we have the language in there to support just a postponement, even if it's just a 30-minute delay, so that we don't have people out in the cemetery when there's inclement weather. We have a lot of guidelines specific to monuments in the cemetery, and so we have added that in here as well. It's specific to who can place the monument, how large the monument can be, how it needs to be placed, and so we've added all that language into the ordinance. Grave lot decorations, we went through this last year on what's permitted, and we went ahead and added that language to the ordinance. And then that same thing goes with improvement to cemetery lots. It's just a little bit different on how it's defined, but we actually have 2 sections that talk about that in the new ordinance. And then damage to cemetery lots, who's responsible, what we do as a city as far as replacement of things, and what is the responsibility of the family. So there are several impacts to the community on this one. Of course, the schedule of fees that we talked about. Currently, our lots are between $300 and $500, depending on where you are in the cemetery. And we have actually just increased that to a flat $550 per lot. They're all the same size. And so there's really, other than just where you're located in the cemetery, there's no difference in the size of the plots. We increased the crypt fees for the mausoleum. And then the late service fees for burials scheduled after 2 p.m., and then weekend service fees for Saturday burials. Rules of conduct, the dogs, cats, and other domestic animals are no longer allowed or permitted outside of vehicles, with the exception of service animals.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So is that they're not permitted, that's just doing a service, right? Doing a burial, or are they not?
No, they're not permitted
period?
at all. They're not permitted at all. Yeah.
And why is that, as far as, how does that impact?
That's the protection.
Yeah, it's the protection of the grounds. It's considered, burial grounds are considered sacred ground, and so it's just the protection from the
Worrying
animals.
about the dog
Yeah.
leaving droppings.
Correct.
How often is it used that often for dog walking?
We have a couple of frequent visitors that bring their animals through. We usually talk to them when we see them and ask them not to, but that was even before we knew about the statute. So this is just making sure that we have it in the writing,
They
in the
don't pick
language.
up, apparently,
No,
or would,
yeah. Hours of operation, this is specific to no Sunday funerals as well as no holiday funerals.
I have a question on that, Amy.
Yeah.
How many funerals do you currently have on Sunday that now will be eliminated?
It's not that many. Most people actually prefer Saturdays, so that's why we didn't do away with the Saturday funerals, because that is a much higher incident. But Sundays, it's a very, very infrequent.
How will we get this information to the public so that they will know? Particularly, I think before we had the issue with the decorations.
Right.
So how will public know what's required and all that?
Yeah, so we have been working really hard to make sure that we educate the public and communicate with them. Part of that is through PSAs. Part of that is just through our updates with people as they come in and purchase lots. We make sure they have the guidelines. We work with funeral homes to do that for us as well, because a lot of families come through funeral homes and not to us directly. And so there's a lot of various ways that we try to reach out and make sure that people are aware.
And we haven't had, at least I'm not aware of any complaints about the upkeep. So I would imagine that is going pretty well.
We've actually gotten some compliments this year, so yes.
Good job.
So far, so good. It's still early. It's still early.
Yeah, it's not even June.
I know, like, we're so early. Of course, the inclement weather update to the language. Monuments. The biggest impact here is that we have changed the permission of benches to be placed. And I put this picture on here for reference. The reason that we have decided not to allow benches anymore is because a lot of people, they end up butting against the headstone next to it, and you can't read either. And so these two right here are back to back. You can't see the writing. When you're out there, you can't see the writing because you can't get between them. And so we have just decided to eliminate benches. Now, all the ones that are out there are grandfathered in. We're not going to make people move those out. But if the family ever decides to come in and replace it, they'll have to follow the guidelines that are current at the time. And then this one, the damage to cemetery lots, it just defines the responsibility for repair and replacement. So obviously, if we damage a monument, due to upkeep, mowing, we will replace that. But if just over time deterioration happens, then that's not necessarily on the city to replace. So then we would work with the families for that. And that is all I have.
This is just,
Unless you have
just
questions.
curious.
Yeah.
There's a lot of old monuments there and graves. How many, I would assume that a huge percentage of the graves out there, we have no contact with any of the heirs or anything like that.
And that's pretty
maybe
accurate. I can't give you a percentage, but yeah.
70, 80% of them are,
It's pretty accurate. There's a lot of situations where we don't have next of kin information, or they were buried 50, 60 years ago, and people just don't live here anymore. So that's one of the things that we're really trying to kind of hone in on, is if we can find them, we will, just to add their contact information, so.
We still have a lot of graves where we don't know who is buried there.
We find more all the time. Yes. We actually purchased a ground penetrating radar system last year. And so now we're able to go and actually make sure that graves are empty and can be sold. And if they aren't, we start digging and see what we can find. But we do have a lot that we have to label unknown because there's no information. Yeah.
tough job.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, owning and keeping up Oak Grove Cemetery is a major task.
It is.
And we made a lot of progress out there, so I compliment you and your staff.
Thank you.
On the work that's been done, but nothing about that is easy.
No.
And of course, we'll have an ordinance, and I think that all of us should take it upon ourselves to read that ordinance, look at the fees, look at the language in there, and make sure that we've got a good feeling about that. Because once you codify something
Right.
like that, it's different, just like we were talking about on event policy. Once it's in an ordinance, then that's law.
Right. It's a lot harder to change.
As opposed to a policy.
Correct.
And so we can amend ordinances, and we will if we need to, but we need to take some time with this. And that's why I think that we wanted to start with a discussion tonight before we had a first reading. So next step will be a first reading, and we'll walk through this
Sure.
together. So,
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
thank you, Amy. Okay, I know there's a lot of interest just in general on some of the things that are in the upcoming budget, particularly as it relates to housing incentives. And so I'm going to ask Nick Hutchinson and Melanie Reason to come up and talk about some of the proposed changes for housing.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commission, City Manager, City Clerk. We're excited to bring the Southside incentives before you tonight for a discussion. And I would first like to recognize the work of the Southside Steering Committee, who's been meeting regularly over the past year. We have two members here tonight, Jay Staples and Mike Mascarella. I'd also like to recognize the planning team that put work into developing these incentives. Melanie Reason, Business Development Specialist, Palmer Planner, and Nancy Upchurch. They put in a lot of time and effort into making sure that these incentives meet the needs of the Southside community and will make a big impact for the project. So I'm going to pass it over to Melanie.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. You get this ready here. Great, thank you so much for allowing me to come and discuss this. So we have 3 programs that we wanted to bring forward, and so one of them is related to businesses, and the other 2 are related to housing. So we'll work through these together. The first is a business improvement grant, and I want you to note that all of these are phase 1, so we hope to put these out for phase 1 and then adjust as we need to. So we'll put it out and try it.
What do you mean by phase 1?
Phase 1, so we hope to run these programs for 3 years and then reevaluate.
Okay.
So so Business Improvement Grant Program, there are 2 grants here, and they're put together. They come out of the same budget. So there's a reimbursement grant for small businesses, and we're looking to help stabilize the commercial buildings that we see on the south side. So we're looking at improvements for roofs and facades. We're going to split the budget 70-30, so 70% of the budget will go to stabilize roofs because they're really expensive, much more expensive than facade and beautification grants. And 30% will go to beautifying buildings. So the roof grant, what's interesting about this one is that we'll fund full and partial roofs, so full roof projects and repairs. Facade grants will fund repairs, replacements, and upgrades to building exteriors. Those are things like tuck pointing bricks, updating siding, could be lighting, could be additional signage, and could be screening on industrial areas. We're limiting this to small businesses employing 50 people or fewer, and our program area is all Southside neighborhoods. And I have a map here to show you, if you want to see that. Here we go. So all Southside neighborhoods. Any questions?
Well, there's dollars associated with those grants and,
Part of the annual budget allocation.
yeah, so, I mean, but if somebody's sitting out there wondering, how much can I get for a roof? I mean, what do we tell them?
Sure. So the way that it's written, they can, so we'll do, it's a 50-50 match on both of these. So we'll fund up to half of their project, and it's limited to, one project cannot be more than half of the yearly allocation.
Okay.
So we want to at least do 2 projects.
So how do they apply? How does that business apply?
So the business we have an application put together, and they'll fill out the application. There are some things that they'll put with their application, like pictures of their project, what their plan is. We'll evaluate the application, make sure that it's a project that we can work with them on, and then they'll get a grant letter. And we'll work through the project with them. We'll provide technical assistance, and then when it's finished, we'll go back and check and say, yes, you did all the things that you said you were going to do, and we'll mark it done, and then they'll apply for reimbursement.
They'll reapply for reimbursement, which means they have to do the
Right.
upfront.
Right. Great. Any other questions? All right, we're moving along. So we'll move into housing here. This one is micro grants. We have 2 housing grants here. One is a micro grant and one is a larger grant. This micro grant was specifically put together by the Southside Steering Committee, and they did a lot of the work on this, and I just supported them as a staff person. So again, this is a 50-50 match micro grant. It is here to fund small exterior projects for residential homes. This looks like repairing windows, updating porches, could be driveways, could be siding, could be gutters. And so we're looking at minimum investment $500. It's a very small project that you could get in with, and we'll match it 50-50. So looking at the smallest project of $250 for them, up to a match of $5,000 max. They can have a larger project if they like, but our match is capped at $5,000.
That means the most we pay is $5,000.
Is that to a homeowner that lives in the house, or is if it's like a small local developer that wants to restore houses to sell?
So both of our home grants are going to be limited to homeowners, so owner-occupied units. On the other one, I'll touch on how developers can work with homeowners to leverage the grant. So the one thing to note is routine maintenance and repairs ordered by fire prevention is not eligible for this program. What we would like to do is work with fire prevention to find folks that would need this grant who would be good candidates and find them before they're in an active code violation situation. So proactive code enforcement in this way is a great retention strategy and anti-displacement strategy.
So how does going back to bullet number 1, how does grandma, how does she benefit from this?
So
Because she doesn't have any money.
Right, so what we would look at, so if they are a candidate for this, hopefully this is how we think it'll play out. We'll work with fire prevention to identify some of these candidates. They know who they are. We did a drive-through with fire prevention through this program area and drove every street and looked at every house in this neighborhood. And we are aware of the projects that would be coming through on this, and actually lowered the barrier to entry down to $500. That's what really sold this for me was there is a home and there was a rock through the picture window. That's a $500 project. So what we want to do is we want to get with grandma and we want to help her repair her picture window. If she cannot afford the match and she's not a good candidate for reimbursement, there is another home repair program that we have a community organization that does that is not a match that we could work with her on getting her into that. And then we're also looking at grant funding for other types of home improvements, not necessarily related to facade. Yeah.
I just asked that because obviously some of what you've seen out there is because people have over the years have not been able to afford to fix up or do anything. So I'm just a little concerned about how they fit into the whole program.
So that we will work with them to, before they get into an active code violation situation, or if they're already in one and they cannot afford to get out of it, we want to work with them to get them with the community organizations that do this type of repair where it is income-based and they can get the help that they need.
I think I read somewhere prior to coming here that if they're in code violations, they would not qualify.
For this program.
Okay.
For the other programs, that is not necessarily true. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Any more?
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? Those are great questions. Thank you.
I'll just say this, I think the key is to get people talking. I think it's to get people, down here to talk with us, calling, wanting information, because I think we want to help and we want to incentivize them to make repairs.
I would agree. So.
This is a question. So if you've got someone that's really in a house that it's really bad shape, no insulation, no whatever. Of course, they probably won't have the money to fund it, but if they do come up with the money, is the money put in that house with the knowledge, knowing that probably that money's only going to last 3 or 4 years? Or benefit being the person gets to stay in the house longer for a couple more years, or is the money used in a house that may have better bones that would maybe last a little longer? I don't know. How do you make those calls? That's a tough call.
So these grants are first come, first serve, and I would think that any amount of time that you can keep a family in the home that they own is worth investing in.
So that would be
I think so.
the goal versus.
Yeah. The goal is to keep people in the homes that they live in, that they want to live in the neighborhoods that they want to stay in. Yeah.
So would it be out of order for perhaps our staff to go knocking on some doors and talking to some folk to say you may qualify for this? Because somebody's going to get missed in the process. So I guess what I'm asking, do we want to make sure that everybody knows what may be available to them for help with their home?
The short answer is yes. Of course, we want everybody to know what's available to them. The long answer is that there's a limited number of projects that we're able to fund.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make promises that we can fund every single project. And so as we move forward, if we get an avalanche of applications, there is a scoring process, a scoring criteria on there to score projects to see in that eventuality. So we've kind of thought that through. I do certainly think that a walkthrough of the neighborhood is certainly in order. I might wait till we pass the ordinance. I might not knock on doors yet.
So one of my concerns, to your point, one of my concerns are, I guess points of interest is, that we have a limited budget.
Yeah.
So we've thrown X amount of dollars at this, and so we're in kind of a pilot, if you will, and so the program might not survive exactly as we have prescribed it starting out. Maybe it will. But one of the best things that would happen, I think, for us to be overprescribed.
Yeah.
And then, for us to figure out, what to do about that.
Yeah.
Because, the goal is to make an impact.
I agree. So I wrote these really creatively, so they're not tied to the specific allocation. So the actual amount is not written into the ordinance. It just says the annual allocation will be divided in this way. So next year, if you want to put more money to my program, I'll welcome that.
If you're successful, I think we probably will.
I think that's great, yeah. I would say with the level of interest that we have now, the level of interest that's been expressed before the project is even off the ground would likely exceed the allocation that we have. So I think it's looking good for that, yeah.
You wouldn't be mad at us if we went back and added some more money tonight, do we?
I don't know, they've done enough budget work. I don't know, they might not like that.
He'd have to change his, Darren
Well,
would
no,
have
you're
to
gonna
change
have
his
to,
speech.
I was gonna say, yeah, you'll have to determine where you're gonna take it from.
I feel your spirit.
I've heard that line before.
I just wanted to think I threw it out there, that's all.
Great, okay, I've got one more. Do you guys want to
Okay.
hear about one more?
Yeah.
So this is the program area, and it is the same for both housing programs. Our program area is concentrated in the Walter Jeton neighborhood and parts of Upper Town, primarily using the Jeton Symphony Project as an anchor. It's a little slow. Okay. This is the larger reimbursement grant. And so again, it is, this one is not a 50-50 match. This one is a little different. So the idea for this one is to leverage private investment in this neighborhood. And what that looks like is getting people to build and rehab. So these are going to be larger projects, could be new builds or larger rehabs. The minimum investment to get into, to be eligible for grant funds is $50,000. So to put that in terms, that's a kitchen and 2 bathrooms maybe. And so we're looking at larger projects that will really make an impact. Each project will be matched with 15% of the permitted value, up to 20% if they want to use the Beyond Code green building code that we're developing with fire prevention. Again, this is based on the permitted value. There's no cap on projects, but the maximum award is $27,000, and that is the 20% Beyond Code. So again, only owner-occupied units are eligible to receive funds. Funds are dispersed as a forgivable 0% interest loan over 5 years. This is to encourage long-term residency so people don't buy into the neighborhood, flip a house, and then move. We want to see stable neighborhoods with families. And then routine maintenance or repairs ordered by fire prevention are, again, not eligible for this. So, Commissioner Wilson, to answer your question, the way that this works with developers who want to come in and do a project, the buyer would be the one who is eligible for this. So again, perhaps on a new build, they would be working with the buyer to apply for this and work through the project with them. That allows the developer to work with their final number, their final sale number, and it also allows the buyer to come to the table with an additional, $20,000. Yeah.
I mean, I think these are great programs. I hope at some point we will do that next step where we will find a program that will help local developers to be able to fund, I guess it's appropriate to say flipping house. I mean, there are plenty of houses in all of our neighborhoods where a developer could come in and get it ready for a family to move in and make it more attractive. And so it would help the neighborhood that if there's a house sitting there that needs the work, it would raise the price level of all the houses there, and it would give more families places to live, which of course we need.
Yeah.
So that's the next project I'd really like for us to see. These are great. I'm very appreciative of all the work you've done on this.
You and I are of the same mind, and so we have some programs I hope to come back to the commission and discuss to work with developers as small business owners and building capacity in our development community. And then I'm also working with local lenders to maybe develop a program that could do just that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a conversation with one local lender who's really all in on helping us and had some great ideas, and they're very committed to the Southside. So, and I think competition makes the world go round. So I think that'll help others get involved.
But there are other areas, I still feel like in Lower Town, Jefferson Street, some of the other areas that we've done in the past, Fountain Avenue, that there's still some houses that could be renovated.
Sure.
Sure.
What was that statistic when we had the meeting on the city-county plan? They gave a statistic, was it like 87% of our homes in Paducah or maybe the Paducah area were like older than, I don't know what that benchmark was, 30 years or whatever? So that was extremely high. So we have a definite need for housing stock, whether it be high-end, of course, low-end, sustainable homes. And we just really got to figure out a way to get some of that going, because there's just relatively very little new homes being built that people really need that.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a question on the budget, but there was a budget item in there, Habitat for Humanity, for $10,000. I guess that's to give them some funds, but, at what time we have been giving them lots where they could come in and build a house on, and are we still
That's still
open
an
for that?
opportunity.
And that still happens too?
I don't know that they've explored any recent, but that is an opportunity that's available.
We're talking about housing, so we might as well
Right.
talk about all of it.
That's
So, yeah.
Yeah. We have a couple of other things maybe in the works that aren't quite ready to come before commission yet, but hopefully we'll see a work session for that soon. Yeah, of course.
Well, Melanie, I just want to thank you and Nick and your staff and all the steering committee.
Yeah.
Because you guys have been working really hard, and I think we're going in a very good direction. So I look forward to see how all this unfolds.
Great.
Thanks to your committee members for being here with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great-
Thank you so
great job.
much.
Great
Yeah,
work.
I've attended a couple of those committee meetings, and they're a hard-working committee, and they've been meeting religiously, trying to work through these incentives, and we're just, I know some people say, well, maybe, the program should be bigger, you should have more money, but we got to stick our toe in the water. The Southside project is when you think of the Southside, it's a huge project. It's a huge area of our city. But it makes sense to start in the Walter Jeton area, where we've got that anchor, building the school, Walter Jeton School. And so it just makes a lot of sense to see if things can spread from there.
Certainly.
That would be the goal, so.
Great. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Okay, city manager, any comments?
Mayor, Commission, the only one that I do have this evening is, this past weekend, there was a very successful Lower Town Arts Festival that took place. Kudos to the organizations, the group that organizes that, all the volunteers, but also want to recognize our staff and team that had a large part to play in that for the Commission's understanding and also for the public at large. Financial contribution and in-kind contribution around $20,000 from the city to support that on an annual basis. And so we're proud to have support an event that's not a city-owned event, but we do provide that support.
For the entire.
For that festival, that one festival, our financial contribution with in-kind and direct financial contribution was in the neighborhood of $20,000 to support that loan event.
Does it include the refuse collection?
Yeah, that's all of our in-kind stuff that we do, all of
Overtime?
all of our team members and that do have any type of part in doing that or any facilities that we provide for that. And then plus we do have a direct financial contribution. So, I saw the numbers between around 20,000 that was estimated in attendance. So the city's, allocated about $1,000 per attendee for that event. So I was glad to see a successful event and hopefully it continues to grow.
Okay, $1,000 per attendee.
I think it'd be $1.
$1 per
$1.
I don't think that number is right, but it's okay.
So, I wasn't that good at math, but
Thanks for that correction.
Dream big, always round up.
We need
you
to
know.
pull that budget back up.
Go over it again, huh?
Always round up.
Okay, we've got some people here that want to make public comments. I'll ask our city clerk to please read our policy on public comments, and then I'll call everybody up, and you'll have 3 minutes.
The City of Paducah welcomes public comments from citizens, and in order to allow for more productive interactions, has adopted rules for those wishing to make comments. The public is invited to make comments about any subject within the scope and responsibility of the Board of Commissioners. It is the right of the mayor to moderate, allow, disallow, extend, or limit public comments at city commission meetings. Anyone wishing to make public comments must complete a public comment card and submit it to the city clerk before the start of the meeting. Speakers must maintain decorum and respectfulness to the elected officials and others in attendance when addressing the city commission. No elected official or staff member may be targeted individually. Public comments will be halted if the speaker is disrespectful, threatening, or out of order. The city commission is under no obligation to respond to the public comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if several attendees wish to make comments on the same topic, they may be asked to select a representative. When you're asked to come forward to make comments, please state your name, your address, whether you are a city resident, and if you're speaking on behalf of a larger organization or group.
Thank you, City Clerk. And the first person I'll call up is Miss Robinson, Marvel? Oh, my Lord.
You know about that one. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am coming to,
Are you a city resident?
I'm sorry, I am a city resident. I live at 224 North 21st Street here in Paducah. The reason I am here, Mayor Bray knows me, he knows why I'm here. I'm wanting to find out from the commissioners and the mayor, how far have you gotten with the organization that you were doing with Mr. Leggs on recognizing the black citizens that have done something within this community?
Go ahead, finish your comments. and
Okay.
I'll make.
What I'm trying to find out is because I know we had spoke several times. The reason I'm asking this question is because my father, Ted Roberts, Commissioner Wilson knows who I'm talking about. I've talked with Representative Henderson on this in regards to, we wanted to have South 8th Street named after my father. It's not just because he's a citizen of Paducah. My father has done a lot of work within the city of Paducah before he passed away. My father was the first black postmaster here in Western Kentucky and Southern Indiana. My father was recognized for you mentioned earlier, AFL-CIO. My father helped start AFL-CIO here in Paducah. My father's done several different things and worked on several human rights commissions and other things here in Paducah. He had a school here where he trained people to get their GEDs, work on resumes, how to act, how to dress, all of this. When Kentucky Oaks Mall opened up here, my father helped get employees, his students rather, jobs there. In fact, one of them was Gary Harris, who worked for the city. He was a fireman, started out as a fireman, retired from the fire department. I think he was I don't know if he became chief, but I know he was high rank with the fire department when he left there. We started this when my father died 6 years ago. My mother was the first one that wanted it done. Since before my mother passed away, never happened. We talked with Mayor Brandy, what's her name? Brandy Harris, or whatever the heck her name was. Harless, yeah, I couldn't remember her name.
Mayor Harless.
Okay, it wasn't very important to me. My mother talked to her. We tried to get this started, couldn't get it started. She made these promises, never happened. My father was recognized on Capitol floor. I mean, they flown a flag over the Capitol on his birthday. I feel that if James Comer can recognize my father and stop on the congressional floor to recognize my father. My father wasn't even from Paducah. He was from Tennessee. But if he could be recognized on the congressional floor, why can't his family get some kind of recognition for the things that he's done here in the city of Paducah? I mean, I was told, get a petition. I've done a petition. I've talked to different people in the community. Everybody signed. I mean, I've got people signing. I even had people who didn't even know my father to sign this petition.
Thank you.
What I have to do, wait to die first too, like my mother?
Thank you, Deneen. I'm very very aware of what your desires are, and it's a topic that's that's been discussed, but there has not been the opportunity yet to recognize him. But it is still an active issue. So that's the best I can tell you right now. So. Kathy Code? Hello, Ms. Code.
Good evening. Kathy Code, 4800 Buckner, Paducah resident.
4800?
Buckner.
Okay.
I just want to kind of plead with you to look at that intersection at Buckner and Pines. It's dangerous. There's a stop sign there, and there's a sign before the stop sign that says stop sign ahead. But the neighbor's driveway sort of lines up with that street, and people don't realize it ends, especially at 2:30 in the morning when they're drunk. And they've gone through there several times, and they've done damage to our yard and the neighbor's yard. And there are drunks in the daytime. There's a little 8-year-old girl that plays there all the time. Can I show you pictures?
Sure.
So you're talking about that intersection where people are yielding as they come in, or supposed to?
I know exactly.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about.
It's not as straightforward as it should be.
I don't know if you can see where the stop sign is, it almost looks like the road progresses on. It doesn't. That's a driveway. And you see the giant boulders we put there to try to stop people. And then you see what they do with the boulders when they don't stop. That's my house in the background.
They displaced the boulder?
From where it sat there into that tree.
Did that just happen?
It just happened last week.
Okay, I saw you moving the boulders back, yeah.
Third time it's happened in 2 years.
So the car with the wreck pushes it into there?
Yes, and then, we've lost this tree twice. And there, see, it lines up sort of, but it doesn't. It's just rocks all over the yard. This one, they broke the boulder last time, and this big hump came flying up my house. There.
Okay.
And, it looks like it goes, it doesn't. And those are big boulders. Someone could actually get hurt hitting them. And we've got police reports out there years,
Can you leave those? Leave those?
But all I'm really asking for, maybe some rumble strips, or one of those little stop signs that flashes. That doesn't sound real expensive, because you can't stop human nature. I know you can't stop them from blasting through there, but there was just a little more deterrent money.
Rumble strips.
Did we make a change out there?
There was a change that was made prior to my tenure starting, but that is one that that has been brought forward for consideration. Engineering has looked at it, and there are some things I think that we can do, in the near future to limit the opportunity, but not alleviate.
Yeah, I know you can't completely fix it,
Right.
but a little bit of help might do something.
And-
The last kid that ran through there last weekend, he was texting. And he said he
Of
didn't
course
see
he
the stop
was.
sign until he was through it.
Thank you very much. We'll follow up. Okay, Mr. Garricky, you've got 2 topics here, but you've only got 3 minutes. Mr. Garricky's a frequent visitor.
Right.
It's good to see you, Jonathan.
Jonathan Yerke, 727 North 25th Street, Paducah, resident. And I was thinking, there's 3 minutes per topic, but I think I can cover them both in 3 minutes anyway. First off, I got a copy of and read the agreement between Commissioner Guess and the city commissioners. And I personally, this is an opinion, I personally don't see how the commission could come to the conclusion that the city of Paducah could be benefited by ignoring blatant racism on the part of a city commissioner. So I disagree with that. I'd like to express that publicly. Secondly, on street improvement, I would like to thank whoever is responsible, and I don't know who that is, for getting 25th Street improved. I've been after this 5 years, and it's in the works. It's doing great. They're doing a great job of it. I have thanked Rick Murphy for that, but whoever else is responsible for actually getting that ball rolling, thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you for that recognition, Jonathan. And street improvements are always a hot topic, and one of the things that we have a goal of doing is doing a better job of optimizing when and where streets and sidewalks are improved. So, but actually your input has helped, so thank you. Matthew Roberts.
425 South 8th Street. I'm a Paducah resident, lived here 33 years of my life, and I want to know why in the world is it so hard to get in touch with the city manager and the chief of police when I have left numerous messages for y'all and nobody has never called back. You work for us, not the other way around.
Are you?
So I need an answer, please.
Well,
Can you give me an answer?
I can give you an answer. I've tried to call you a couple times. I reached your mother or the lady at the home.
Yes.
We have played phone tag, so it's a misrepresentation to say I have not
Two
called you back.
times, but I called just this week, sir.
Yeah, and I have tried to call you back, and we have missed each other.
I have
Yes.
not got a call back. I'm not DeJuan Thomas, so you can't pull that one.
No, I just said, for the record, I have tried to connect with you and others in the
I'll at
office.
least
over
give
there.
you that.
Well, that's
I'll
not
at
what you
least
said.
give you that.
That's not what you
But
said first.
I'll at least give you that, but I do need to talk to you.
Yes, and we can get that scheduled.
As far as Chief Laird, how's that? The police chief can't call citizens back?
We will look into that for you, sir.
Okay, by the way, also, Dana Dobson, she was supposed to have filed a report the other day, and she refused, she didn't do it, and Officer Joseph Hayes is well aware of that, too. So look into that, too.
We will.
Because it's a lot of discrepancies among, administration. It's not the people, it's the people that are the administrators. They don't know their jobs. If you ask for, and I've hit the city of Paducah for $40,000 just 4 years ago, OSHA violations. Why do you think I'm not there? 8 open record requests from Andy Bashir, you failed. So when I come with my stuff, I'm coming with it all. And that's all I want to let you know.
Okay, the final person talking tonight is Regina Top. Ms. Top? No? We're waiting.
And I am Regina Top.
Yes, ma'am.
I am a Paducah resident. My address is 165 Woodward Street here in Paducah. I'm more so asking for some advice. I have purchased a building on Bridge Street, 2156 Bridge Street. And I purchased the building to start a women's event center is what I purchased it for. And on the back of it, I was going to have like children's birthday parties and tea parties and things like that. I purchased the building in October. And since I purchased the building, it has been vandalized. They have even broken down my door. I had locks put on. They've taken those. They cut all the screens out. I've had the police there a couple of times. I'm just wanting to know what would be you all's advice for me with this building. I'm still making payments on it, but I can't really get anything started because they even went up there and stripped my wiring. I don't know which way to go with it.
Do you have security cameras?
No, I don't, because I don't have any power there. Since they stripped the wiring out.
Have you made police reports?
Yes, I've done that. And I was told that they would patrol more. They did come, and we did a walkthrough up there. And people have been staying in there to the point that they had their own security system, I would say. It was a little toy owl sitting up on the counter. So whenever someone walked past, it would hoot. So they have a security system that I can't have, and I own the building.
Well, I would just say as first blush, I think you have to have power to the building and you have to have some sort of security camera. So you have to figure out a way to do that in order to protect, and then you have to work with our police to somehow, help protect, but the police can't be by there, 24 hours a day, of course, and.
No, but I've had them come out twice.
Yes, ma'am.
And met with me. But I'm just trying to find out if it would be possible for me to get this done. Because like you said, go ahead and get the power on, but now that is going to be expensive for me.
That's our best advice for right now.
I would just suggest, absent of the power, and it's not too expensive, but you can get those trail cameras that operate on battery and set those up, and they're motion detected and have a little SD card in them. You don't have to have power for those, but in the interim, that might be an option as well to explore.
Okay, when I get those,
Yeah.
what would be my next step?
That would help the police follow up to see who was captured on that and help you with that. But after this meeting, you and I can talk some more about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's the end of our public comments, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.